in order to succeed on social media, to have a good reach and engagement, your story needs to be persuasive. In this module, you will learn about how to craft your story's arguments in an ethical way so as to be convincing to your audience when presenting green issues. We will start by discussing what persuasion is and talk about the thin line that separates it from manipulation. Then, you will learn what opinion leaders are and how their role connects to that of influencers. People who assume these roles specialize in using persuasion techniques, but at times they might also be manipulative. In order to make you a less vulnerable consumer of media messages, as well as an ethical creator of persuasive arguments on social media, this module will introduce you to basic media literacy principles that help you filter fake information. Consequently, you will be presented with a toolkit that every creator of persuasive messages should have, including basic rhetorical principles and some of the most important persuasion or influencing principles. Throughout the module, you will also be introduced to several key concepts connected to the online communication of green topics, including sustainable living and sustainable fashion, greenwashing, and the connection between ethics and sustainability. Our overall objective will be to increase your green knowledge and awareness, as well as see how you can engage in communicating such topics persuasively online. Persuasion is omnipresent in our lives, whether we consider the information we constantly receive from the media or the interpersonal communication we develop every day. According to Robert Gass and John Saiter, who wrote a book called Persuasion, Social Influence and Compliance Gaining, understanding what persuasion is and how it works brings important benefits in your personal development. The authors list 5 primary benefits of learning about persuasion and refer to them as the instrumental function, the knowledge and awareness function, the defensive function, the debunking function, and the well-being function. Simply put, you can be more persuasive and communicate better. A competent communicator can identify its audience and adapt to its needs and expectations, find the best strategies in approaching a topic, as well as arrange the message in a way that provides the best chance for its success. You become more aware of the multitude of persuasive processes that you are subjected to on a daily basis. Even if you don't plan to pursue a career in domains that primarily involve persuading people, such as advertising or politics, understanding how persuasion works will help you improve your knowledge about the world. And knowledge is power, as everyone agrees. You become less vulnerable and are less likely to be taken in by persuasive attempts around you. For example, studies show that people tend to underestimate the influence of advertising on themselves while overestimating its effects on others, which shows that often we might be more defenseless than we might think in recognizing manipulation or propaganda. You have a better chance at distinguishing truth from lies or fiction by debunking persuasion attempts that are counterintuitive and go against common sense assumptions. You increase your sense of well-being and self-worth by becoming a more effective communicator. Being able to persuade can help establish and maintain relationships and enhances your self-esteem, giving you a more positive view upon yourself. So what is persuasion? Here is the working definition established by the 2 authors. persuasion involves one or more persons who are engaged in the activity of creating, reinforcing, modifying, or extinguishing beliefs, attitudes, intentions, motivations, and/or behaviors within the constraints of a given communication context. A persuasive process is transparent, intentional, and non-coercive, which, in the case of mass communication, means that the public voluntarily is convinced to adhere to some ideas or change others. Moreover, the entire mechanism of persuasion is based on ethical principles. When these rules are not respected, we deal with manipulation, which involves using hidden strategies for changing one's attitude or behavior, oftentimes so as to fit the personal interests of the manipulator. Lies, deception, biased opinions, and immoral practices are all part of manipulation. When this happens at a very large scale, we are dealing with propaganda. Being persuasive is strongly connected to having credibility and a good reputation in the eyes of a community. One category of people who have such characteristics and use them to shape the way in which the community looks upon a particular issue or the values and beliefs it adopts is that of opinion leaders. According to the two-step flow of communication theory developed in the 1950s by Elihu Katz and Paul Lazarsfeld in their book Personal Influence, opinion leaders have an important role in shaping how people think about a particular topic. Contradicting previous media theories that claimed audiences that are directly influenced by the mass media, Lazarsfeld and Katz identified opinion leaders as being responsible not just for transferring information they gather from the media, but also their own interpretations and views, thus influencing mass audiences. By impersonating certain values, presenting competence and a strategic social location, opinion leaders can exercise an important amount of influence and affect the opinions of networks made up from their followers. Similarly, social media influencers are people who have the power to shape the opinions and preferences of their followers, offering inspiration and guidance in connection to their lifestyle choices, behaviors, consumer product acquisitions, and so on. This power is based on a well-established authority and credibility in a particular field, such as fashion, politics, environment, that the influencer constantly reinforces through communicating with its audiences and engaging with them. The term influencer is used particularly in social media marketing in order to designate people who have large numbers of online followers and who recommend or promote certain products or services via persuasive audiovisual and text messages. The mass media messages that reach us every day have an embedded persuasive purpose that might not always be visible at first sight. For example, in the case of an advert, it is clear that a company plans to persuade us into buying a product. But in the case of a televised political debate, it might be more difficult to realize that the moderator leads the discussion toward a certain conclusion by way of asking particular questions and voicing particular opinions while silencing others. There is often a thin line separating persuasion from manipulation. As mentioned before, one of the key differences between the two is that persuasion involves a transparent strategy whereas in the case of manipulation, we are dealing with hidden and unethical practices, such as being untruthful or deliberately hiding relevant data for the personal gain of the manipulator. Media literacy provides us with the skills we need in order to critically assess the credibility and accuracy of information we receive every day, thus becoming less vulnerable to manipulation. The principles it starts from are the following. All media messages are constructed. That is, they are created by a group of journalists or other professionals and even non-professionals who are responsible for a particular selection of facts. Media messages use a particular language with its own set of rules. For example, filming a character's face with a close-up shot in cinema means we are supposed to pay attention to her feelings, while filming her from afar means we should pay attention to her actions or surroundings. Different audiences understand the same message differently, depending on cultural background, education, cognitive abilities, etc. Media messages have embedded values and points of view. They are never neutral or objective, but highlight certain aspects of reality and are meant to persuade us of a particular interpretation. Most media messages are created to gain financial profit or power. With these principles in mind, one way of critically evaluating whether an information is false or misleading is to have the aspects listed in this image in mind. They underline the importance of considering the validity of your source of information, checking the credibility of its author, the date of the story, as well as identifying your own personal biases on the topic. Moreover, exercising your critical assessment of the information also implies reading beyond a sensationalist title, checking the actual sources used by the journalists who published the story, verifying if this is not a satirical news item, and consulting with experts or with a fact-checking website. You can find more details about the topics presented in this module by checking these references. In what follows, you will see two videos to help you craft the ethical arguments of your green story. In the first, you will learn some basic rhetorical principles that help you convince your audiences, and in the second, you will become familiarized with the 6 secrets from the science of persuasion as presented by Robert Cialdini, an important researcher in this domain.